Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What If. So in this video, we will see what if Ben 10 was a girl. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Watch That Changed Everything. Ugh, are we there yet? Jen Tennyson groaned, slumping against the window of the rust bucket. The ancient RV rumbled down the highway while she blew her chestnut bangs out of her eyes for the millionth time. Summer vacation had officially started 3 hours ago, and she was already dying of boredom. You asked that exactly 7 minutes ago, Gwen said without looking up from her book. Her cousin sat at the built-in table, surrounded by a small fortress of summer reading materials. And 14 minutes before that. And 22 minutes before that. Well, excuse me for not bringing the entire library, Jen shot back, kicking her sneakers against the dashboard. Grandpa Max glanced over with a patient smile. Feet down, Jen. We'll reach the campsite in about 30 minutes. This summer road trip is going to be great, you girls just need to give it a chance. Jen sighed dramatically and pulled out her handheld game console. The battery died after 3 minutes. Perfect. The rust bucket finally turned off the main highway onto a dirt road leading into Yosemite National Park. Trees towered on both sides as they bounced along, camping gear rattling in the storage compartments. Check it out, Grandpa Max announced as they pulled into their campsite. We've got the place practically to ourselves. No cell service, no internet, just family bonding under the stars. Yay, Jen muttered. She hopped out of the RV before it fully stopped, breathing in the forest air. Okay, so maybe the scenery didn't totally suck. Jen, help unpack the tent, Gwen called, already organizing supplies. In a minute. I wanna explore first. Jen took off running before anyone could stop her. Jennifer Tennyson. Grandpa Max called after her. Be back in 20 minutes or no marshmallows tonight. Jen darted between trees, jumping over logs and ducking under branches. Freedom. The forest stretched out like a giant playground. Maybe this trip wouldn't be a complete disaster after all. As dusk settled, something bright streaked across the sky, a falling star. Jen watched its trajectory, eyes widening as it crashed somewhere in the distance with a dull boom. No way. She whispered, then immediately changed direction toward the impact site. This was way better than setting up tents. The woods grew darker as she ventured deeper, but an eerie glow guided her forward. She scrambled down a small ravine and found herself standing at the edge of a smoking crater. At its center sat a metallic sphere, glowing with strange symbols. Cool, Jen breathed, sliding down into the crater. The sphere cracked open as she approached, revealing something that looked like a watch. It was unlike anything she'd ever seen, bulky, metallic, with an hourglass symbol on its face. Weird camping prize, she joked nervously, reaching toward it. The moment her fingers touched the device, it leapt onto her wrist like it was alive. Ah! Get off! She tugged frantically, but it clamped tight around her arm. The center dial popped up, displaying a silhouette. Come on, you stupid. When she pressed the dial down, her entire body erupted in heat and light. Her bones shifted, her skin hardened, and suddenly she was on fire, literally on fire, but somehow it didn't hurt. Ha! Jen screamed, staring at her transformed body of living magma and flames. I'm burning. Wait, I'm okay. She touched a nearby tree, which immediately caught fire. Not okay. Not okay. She backed away in panic, setting 3 more trees ablaze. The forest fire spread with terrifying speed. No, no, no. Stop. She waved her fiery arms frantically, which only made things worse. How do I turn this off? She slapped at the hourglass symbol now on her chest, but nothing happened. The crackling flames grew higher. Somewhere in the distance, campers shouted in alarm. Think, Jen, she told herself. If I'm made of fire, maybe I can control it. She concentrated on the nearest flames, willing them to diminish. To her shock, they actually responded, bending toward her like she was a magnet. Whoa! She experimentally thrust her hand forward, and a fireball shot out. Okay, definitely not helping. The fire continued spreading despite her efforts. Jen! Where are you? Gwen's voice carried through the trees. Stay back! Jen shouted. There's a fire. But Gwen appeared at the ridge above the crater, her eyes bulging at the sight below. What is that? She screamed, pointing at Jen. It's me. I'm Jen, she called back, flames flickering around her words. I touched this weird watch thing and now I'm a walking barbecue. That's impossible. Gwen backed away. You're some kind of monster. I'm not a monster. Look, I know this is crazy, but, Jen's explanation was cut short as more trees ignited. I can't control it. The whole forest is gonna burn down. Gwen disappeared, presumably running for help. Jen tried approaching the flames again, discovering she could absorb some of the fire back into herself. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Minutes later, Grandpa Max arrived with Gwen. While Gwen kept her distance, Max approached with surprising calmness. Jen. Is that really you? He asked, shielding his face from the heat. Grandpa. Yes. I don't know what happened, there was this meteor, and this watch thing jumped on my wrist, and now I'm this. Max studied her burning form with more curiosity than fear. The fire's spreading. We need to evacuate the campground. Wait. Jen had a realization. I think I can make fire breaks. Stand back. She ran to the perimeter of the burning area and dragged her hands along the ground, scorching the earth and burning away potential fuel. Working methodically, she created a wide ring of barren ground around the flames. It's working, she called back triumphantly. The fire can't jump across. Max nodded. Good thinking, Jen. Now try to control the existing fire, see if you can reduce it. Jen concentrated harder, pulling flames toward herself, absorbing their energy. The fire began to diminish. This is insane, Gwen muttered, watching from a safe distance. My cousin's a fire alien. Just as Jen got the situation under control, the hourglass symbol on her chest began beeping and flashing red. What's happening now? She panicked. A red wave washed over her body, and suddenly she was human again, normal 10-year-old Jen Tennyson, standing in a charred clearing with the strange watch still attached to her wrist. That was awesome, she exclaimed, examining herself. Did you see that? I was like a superhero or something. Max knelt beside her, examining the device. Are you hurt? No. I felt totally fine, better than fine. Like I was super powerful. She tried twisting the dial again, but nothing happened. Ah man, it's not working anymore. Let's get back to the rust bucket, Max said firmly. We need to talk about this, watch. Back at the RV, Jen couldn't stop bouncing with excitement while Gwen paced nervously. So you're not freaked out by this at all? Gwen demanded. You turned into a fire monster. Fire alien, Jen corrected, still fiddling with the watch. And it was amazing. I wonder what else this thing can do. Maybe I can turn into different aliens. Grandpa Max set 3 hot chocolates on the table. Jen, this isn't a toy. That device could be dangerous. But you saw how I stopped the forest fire. I can use it to help people. Jen argued. Max's expression was unusually serious. What concerns me is where it came from. Technology like that it's not from Earth. Both girls stared at him. How would you know that? Gwen asked suspiciously. Max cleared his throat. Just a guess. But we should be careful until we understand what we're dealing with. The radio interrupted their conversation with a news bulletin. Breaking news from Maryville. Local scientist Dr. Aloysius Onimo has reportedly robbed the town pet shop after being denied a prestigious research award. Witnesses described genetically altered animals assisting in the robbery. Police advise citizens to avoid genetically altered animals. Jen's eyes lit up. That sounds like something a superhero should check out. Absolutely not, Max said firmly. We should stay away from, Grandpa, people could get hurt. And now I can actually do something about it. Jen held up her wrist. The watch is glowing green again, I think it's recharged. Max rubbed his temples, clearly conflicted. We'll drive into town tomorrow to assess the situation. But no using that watch unless absolutely necessary, understood? Yes. Jen pumped her fist. Superhero summer vacation starts now. The next morning, they drove the Rust Bucket into Maryville, a quaint town currently in chaos. A crowd had gathered outside the Natural History Museum, where police barricades blocked the entrance. Something's definitely going down, Jen said, pressing her face against the RV window. They parked nearby and approached the commotion. An officer was addressing the crowd, please remain calm. We have reports of dangerous animals inside the museum. Animal control is en route. Dangerous animals in a museum? Gwen raised an eyebrow. A crash from inside answered her question as glass shattered. Something massive moved behind the museum's front windows. I need to help. Jen whispered, ducking behind a news van. She examined the watch, which now showed a different alien silhouette when she twisted the dial. Let's try this one. She slammed the dial down. In a flash of green light, her body compressed and stretched, her skin turning blue. When the transformation completed, she stood only 6 inches tall with amphibian features and huge eyes. Whoa! I'm tiny, her voice came out high-pitched and fast. This isn't exactly what I was hoping for. Before she could change back, screams erupted from the museum entrance as a massive mutated frog, the size of a small car with glowing red eyes, burst through the doors. Riding atop it was a skinny man with white hair and a metallic headpiece. Fools! You denied Aloysius Onimo the recognition he deserves, the man ranted. Now witness the power of my transmodulator technology. That must be Dr. Onimo, Jen whispered. She looked down at her tiny blue form. What am I supposed to do as Shrimp Alien? Bite his ankles? Then she realized how fast her mind was working, processing information at incredible speeds. She could see trajectories, angles, and weak points everywhere. Wait, I'm not just small, I'm smart. Like, super smart. Jen dashed forward, her tiny legs carrying her at surprising speed. She dodged between panicking civilians and leapt onto the back of a police car. From there, she could see Onimo directing his mutant frog toward the museum's genetics lab. He's after the equipment. Jen realized. She needed to move fast, but this form wasn't ideal for combat. The watch symbol on her back started beeping. No, not now. In a flash, she transformed back into human Jen, now standing exposed on top of the police car. Hey, an officer shouted. Get down from there, kid. Jen jumped down just as Grandpa Max and Gwen caught up to her. Jen! What happened to staying out of sight? Max scolded. Sorry, but that Frogzilla is heading for the genetics lab. I need to stop Onimo before he gets whatever he's after. The ground shook as another creature, a mutated mammoth with metallic tusks, smashed through the museum's side wall. 2 of them. Gwen gasped. Now can I go, hero? Jen asked, already twisting the watch dial. Max hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. Jen selected a different silhouette and transformed again. This time, her body grew taller, leaner, with blue and black skin and wheels for feet. Whoa, she exclaimed, testing her new form. I feel fast. You look like a velociraptor on roller blades, Gwen commented. Perfect. Without warning, Jen took off, accelerating to incredible speed. The world blurred around her as she zipped toward the museum, leaving a blue streak behind. Inside, Onimo was loading equipment onto his mutant mammoth while the frog stood guard. Hey, Frog Prince. Jen called, skidding to a stop. Stealing is so not cool. Onimo turned, surprised. What manner of creature are you? I'm, Jen searched for a name. XLR8. And I'm here to stop you. Amusing. Destroy it. Onimo ordered his frog. The creature leaped with shocking speed, but Jen, as XLR8, was faster. She darted away, circling the room in milliseconds, creating a disorienting blur. Too slow, she taunted, zipping between exhibits. Let me show you how it's done. She accelerated, racing up walls and across the ceiling, building momentum before delivering a high-speed kick to the frog's head. The creature stumbled but quickly recovered. Meanwhile, Onimo finished loading his stolen equipment. Your interference is meaningless. Once I complete my work, I'll transform this city's zoo into my personal army. The zoo. Jen's eyes widened behind her visor. We have to stop him. She charged toward Onimo, but the mammoth stomped, creating a shockwave that sent her crashing into a display case. By the time she recovered, Onimo and his creatures were smashing through another wall, escaping. Oh no, you don't. Jen raced after them, catching up easily. She grabbed onto the mammoth's fur, trying to climb toward Onimo. Persistent pest. Onimo snarled, aiming his transmodulator device at her. A beam of energy narrowly missed as Jen dodged. The chase continued through town streets, civilians screaming and fleeing. The mammoth charged toward the city zoo, the frog hopping alongside. The watch symbol began beeping again. Not now. Jen groaned. In a flash of red, she transformed back to human form, while clinging to the side of a speeding mutant mammoth. Ah, she screamed, losing her grip and tumbling onto the pavement. She rolled to a stop, wincing. Minutes later, the rust bucket screeched to a halt beside her. Jen. Grandpa Max helped her up. Are you alright? I'm fine, but Onimo's headed for the zoo. He's going to mutate all the animals. They piled into the RV and sped toward the zoo, arriving to find the gates already smashed open. Inside, they could hear animals roaring in distress. The watch is still recharging, Jen said, tapping it impatiently. Come on, come on. We need a plan, Gwen insisted. We can't just charge in there. Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do, Jen replied as the watch finally glowed green. She twisted the dial, finding a new silhouette. Let's see what this one does. The transformation felt different, heavier, solid. Her skin hardened into crystalline material, her body growing taller and more angular. When it finished, she resembled a walking diamond statue with a sharp-pointed head. Whoa, Jen examined her crystalline hands. I'm like a giant diamond. Diamond head. Gwen suggested. Diamond head. I like it. Jen flexed her crystalline arms. Let's see Onimo's pets try to bite through this. Inside the zoo, chaos reigned. Several exhibits were already broken open, and a growing collection of mutated animals gathered around Onimo. The mad scientist stood atop a platform, his transmodulator device aimed at the lion's enclosure. Behold the dawn of a new age. Onimo proclaimed as a lion grew to twice its normal size, sprouting spikes along its back. Show's over, Onimo. Jen called, stepping forward in her diamond head form. Onimo turned, scowling. You again. Different form, same outcome. He gestured to his creatures. Attack. The mutant frog leaped toward Jen, who instinctively raised her arms to block. To her surprise, crystal shards extended from her forearms, forming a shield. The frog bounced off, croaking angrily. "Sweet." Jen grinned. She pointed her arm at Anemo, and crystal projectiles shot forward, narrowly missing him and shattering equipment behind him. "Careful." Anemo clutched his transmodulator protectively. "This technology is irreplaceable." "That's the idea." Jen charged forward as the mammoth intercepted her. Its massive tusks collided with her diamond body, creating a shower of sparks but leaving her unharmed. "Ha! Can't break diamonds," she taunted, grabbing the mammoth's tusks. With surprising strength, she managed to flip the enormous creature over, sending it crashing into an empty exhibit. Civilians trapped in the zoo ran for the exits as Gwen guided them to safety. Grandpa Max, meanwhile, approached from another angle, trying to reach Anemo's platform. The mutant lion pounced at Jen from behind. She spun around too late, and its claws scraped across her diamond surface with a teeth-grinding screech. Though unharmed, the impact sent her tumbling. "Okay, so I'm tough but not immovable," she noted, climbing back up. She concentrated, and her arm formed into a blade-like shape. "Let's try this." She sliced through the fence of the elephant exhibit. "Run free, big guys. Get away from the crazy scientist." The elephants trumpeted and stampeded away from the commotion, creating a diversion that allowed Jen to advance on Anemo's position. The scientist was frantically adjusting his transmodulator, aiming it skyward. "With this final adjustment, my transmodulation wave will blanket the entire city," Anemo declared. "Every animal will evolve to its ultimate form, under my control." "That doesn't sound like proper science," Jen called, scaling the platform. She extended crystal spikes from her feet for better grip. "What would a child know of science?" Anemo sneered. "I am revolutionizing evolutionary theory. I know enough to stop you." Jen reached the platform and aimed her arm directly at the transmodulator. Crystal shards shot forth, embedding in the device's circuitry. "No." Anemo tried to shield his invention, but sparks already flew from its damaged components. "My life's work." The transmodulator began to pulse erratically, its energy beam flickering. "It's gonna blow," Jen realized. She tackled Anemo, encasing them both in a crystal dome just as the device exploded. When the smoke cleared, Jen's protective crystal shell had saved them both from the blast. Around the zoo, the mutated animals began reverting to their normal states as the transmodulator's effects faded. "My beautiful creations." Anemo wailed as police officers arrived to take him into custody. "Your creations nearly destroyed the city," Jen said, retracting her crystal shell. "Maybe focus on smaller science projects next time, like an ant farm." As the police led Anemo away, the watch symbol on Jen's chest began beeping. She quickly moved behind an exhibit before transforming back to human form. "That was amazing," she exclaimed, rejoining Grandpa Max and Gwen. "Did you see how I took down that mammoth? And the crystal shield thing?" "We saw," Gwen said, sounding reluctantly impressed. "I guess having a cousin with weird alien powers might come in handy sometimes." Grandpa Max placed a hand on Jen's shoulder. "You did well today, but remember, with great power comes great responsibility." "Did you just quote Spider-Man to me?" Jen laughed. "It's still good advice," Max replied with a knowing smile. "That watch chose you for a reason, Jen. How you use it matters." As they walked back to the rust bucket, a news crew filmed the aftermath. The reporter spoke excitedly, "Mysterious crystal being saved countless lives today." Witnesses described the heroic actions of what some are calling a superhero. Is Maryville home to a real-life guardian angel? This reporter wonders. Guardian angel? Jen grinned. More like guardian aliens. Back in the rust bucket, as they drove away from Maryville, Grandpa Max grew serious. "Jen, we need to discuss that watch more carefully." "What's to discuss?" It turns me into awesome aliens. I can be a hero. That's just it, Max said. That device, it's called the Omnitrix. Jen and Gwen exchanged shocked glances. How do you know that? Gwen asked. Max hesitated. I've heard stories. In my, plumbing days. What does plumbing have to do with alien technology? Jen demanded. There's a lot I haven't told you girls, Max admitted. The truth is, before I retired, I wasn't just a plumber in the sense you know. So what were you? Jen leaned forward eagerly. That's a story for another day, Max replied, turning his attention back to the road. What matters now is keeping you safe. That watch, the Omnitrix, is one of the most powerful devices in the galaxy. And if it found its way to Earth, then others might be looking for it, Gwen finished, suddenly understanding. Others? Jen looked down at the watch. You mean aliens? Real aliens are coming to get this thing? Max nodded grimly. It's likely. Which is why you need to be careful when using it. But I can't just ignore people in trouble. Jen protested. Not when I can help them. I'm not saying don't use it, Max clarified. I'm saying use it wisely. Don't draw unnecessary attention. And most importantly, stick together. We're strongest as a family. That night, camped in a clearing far from any town, Jen sat outside the rust bucket, studying the stars. The Omnitrix glowed faintly on her wrist, a constant reminder of how dramatically her life had changed in just 2 days. Gwen joined her, offering a cup of hot chocolate. So, alien superhero, huh? Not exactly the summer vacation I expected. Are you kidding? This is way better than normal summer camp. Jen grinned, accepting the drink. Though I still don't get why Grandpa knows so much about alien stuff. He's definitely hiding something, Gwen agreed. Did you notice how he has all these weird tools in the RV? And that encrypted laptop he thinks I haven't discovered? You snooped through Grandpa's things? Jen asked, impressed. Just a little, Gwen admitted. Something tells me there's more to Grandpa Max than fishing trips and weird cooking. Jen looked back at the stars. Whatever's up there, whatever's coming for this watch, we'll handle it. I've got 10 different aliens to choose from. And one annoying cousin who'll bail you out when you mess up, Gwen added with a smirk. Hey! Jen playfully shoved her. I handled Onimo just fine. After nearly burning down a forest. Minor detail. They laughed together, unaware they were being observed. High in orbit, a damaged ship maintained position above Earth. Within its medical chamber, a figure floated in healing fluid, mechanical arms keeping him alive. Monitors displayed images of the battle at the zoo, focusing on the diamond-like creature that had defeated Onimo. The Omnitrix. A raspy voice growled. Found at last. A robotic assistant approached. Sensors confirmed the Omnitrix energy signature, Lord Vilgax. It appears to be bonded to a human host. A human? The shadowy figure's eyes narrowed with contempt. Prepare a recovery drone. I want that device, and I care not what happens to its host. Yes, Lord Vilgax. Recovery drone launching now. A small probe detached from the ship, descending toward Earth like a falling star, one of many that would soon follow. Back at camp, Jen noticed a brief flash in the sky. She shivered despite the warm night. You okay? Gwen asked. Yeah, just had a weird feeling. Like someone's watching us. Jen rubbed the Omnitrix absently. Probably just my imagination. But as the cousins headed back inside the RV, a metallic glint appeared briefly in the nearby trees, the probe, observing, analyzing, waiting for the optimal moment to fulfill its master's command. For Jen Tennyson, 10-year-old girl turned reluctant hero, summer vacation had only just begun. With the Omnitrix on her wrist and the stars suddenly feeling much closer, the adventure of a lifetime stretched before her, an adventure that would test not just her new powers, but her courage, her heart, and what it truly means to be a hero. Unaware of the gathering threats, Jen finally drifted to sleep, dreaming of new aliens to discover and people to save, while in space, Vilgax's ship turned ominously toward Earth, a predator circling its prey. The watch had changed everything. And nothing would ever be the same again. Chapter 2, New Powers, New Enemies, Come on, Slowpoke. Last one to the beach is a rotten stinkfly egg. Jen sprinted down the boardwalk, her sneakers pounding against the weathered wood. That's not fair. You got a head start. Gwen called, struggling to keep up while balancing a tote bag full of sunscreen, towels, and beach reading. 2 weeks into their summer road trip, the Tennyson family had reached Port Lucaya, a sleepy coastal town known for its pristine beaches and mysterious shipwrecks. After the whole Dr. Onimo incident and 3 other alien encounters Jen had handled, a robot drone in the desert, some weird guy made of living electricity, and a seriously angry bounty hunter with a pet wolf thing, Grandpa Max had insisted they take a proper beach day. No aliens. No hero stuff. Just normal summer fun. Yeah, right. Like that was gonna happen. Jen reached the sand first, throwing her arms up victoriously. Champion of the universe. The crowd goes wild. She made cheering noises while doing an embarrassing victory dance. You're such a dweeb, Gwen said, finally catching up. And you only won because you're not carrying anything. Details, details. Jen flopped down on the sand. Man, I've been dying to check out those underwater caves everyone's talking about. The guy at the bait shop said they might connect to that sunken shipwreck offshore. Grandpa Max approached with a cooler and beach umbrella. The Lucaya Deep is off limits, Jen. Those underwater caves are dangerous, even experienced divers avoid them. But Grandpa, Jen whined, fiddling with the Omnitrix, I could totally handle it as Ripjaws. I haven't even tried that alien yet. We discussed this, Max said firmly, stabbing the umbrella into the sand. No alien activity unless absolutely necessary. We don't need to attract unwanted attention. Jen sighed dramatically. Fine. Normal boring beach day it is. But as she helped set up their spot, her eyes kept drifting toward the distant waters where buoys marked the protected marine area. Something out there was calling to her, she could feel it. The beach day progressed normally, for about an hour. Jen built a sandcastle, buried Gwen's legs, and tried unsuccessfully to leave her there, and splashed in the shallows. But her attention kept returning to the deep water beyond the swimming area. I'm going for a swim, she announced suddenly. Stay within the buoys, Max called, not looking up from his weird-smelling sandwich. Sure thing. Jen nodded, already backing away. Gwen glanced up from her book. You're going to check out that shipwreck, aren't you? What? No. I'm just, swimming. Totally normal. Swimming. Jen couldn't hide her guilty expression. You're a terrible liar, Gwen sighed. I'm coming with you. No way. You'll just try to stop me. Or I'll help keep you from drowning when your watch time's out underwater, genius. Gwen set down her book. Besides, I'm curious too. Surprised by the unexpected alliance, Jen grinned. Really? Okay, but we have to be sneaky about it. Grandpa will freak if he sees us swimming toward the deep. They casually made their way down the beach, away from Max's line of sight. Behind a large rock formation, Jen activated the Omnitrix, cycling through alien options. There. She found the fish-like silhouette. Ripjaw's time. The familiar green light enveloped her as her body transformed, her skin turning scaly and pale, a large dorsal fin sprouting from her back, powerful jaws and sharp claws forming. When the transformation completed, she stood as a humanoid fish creature with glowing green eyes. Whoa, she said, her voice now gurgling and deep. This feels different. You look like the creature from the Black Lagoon, Gwen observed. Can you even talk underwater with that form? Let's find out. Without waiting, Ripjaw's Jen dove into the water. The transformation was incredible. Underwater, her movements became lightning fast and graceful. Her powerful tail propelled her through the water with minimal effort, and gills opened along her neck, filtering oxygen effortlessly from the seawater. Jen surfaced near Gwen. This is amazing. I can breathe underwater. And I can see everything, it's like having underwater night vision. Great. So what's the plan? Gwen asked, pulling her goggles on. I'll swim us both out to the caves. Hold on to my dorsal fin and take a deep breath when I tell you. Gwen hesitated. This is crazy, you know that, right? Totally crazy, Jen agreed with a sharp-toothed grin. Ready? As I'll ever be, Gwen sighed, grabbing onto Jen's fin. Deep breath, now. They submerged. Jen cut through the water with astonishing speed, Gwen holding tight as they passed the buoys and headed toward the underwater cliffs. Fish scattered before them, and Jen found herself instinctively tracking their movements like a predator. The water grew darker as they descended. Jen felt Gwen tapping her shoulder, the signal they'd agreed meant, need air. She angled upward, finding a pocket in the rocks where they could surface. Gwen gasped for breath. A little warning before you decide to race a motorboat would be nice. Sorry. This body just wants to go fast. Jen treaded water easily. Look, we're almost there. See that dark opening? Below them, a large cave mouth yawned in the underwater cliff face. Strange, metallic glints reflected from within. That doesn't look like a normal shipwreck, Gwen noted. Only one way to find out. Jen's expression grew serious. This dive will be longer. Can you handle it? Gwen nodded, taking several deep breaths to prepare. They dove again, Jen moving more carefully this time. As they entered the cave, the mysterious reflections grew brighter, not the dull gleam of corroded metal, but sharp, technological lights. Inside the cave, partially embedded in rock, sat what was unmistakably not a human vessel. Its sleek, oval design and unfamiliar markings screamed alien spacecraft. A section of the hull had been breached, allowing access to the interior. Jen felt Gwen tapping urgently, she needed air again. Scanning quickly, Jen spotted an air pocket where part of the ship remained above water level. She surfaced there, pulling Gwen up into a small chamber. That's a spaceship. Gwen exclaimed once she caught her breath. An actual alien spaceship. I knew something weird was going on here. Jen's Ripjaw's form made her excitement sound like angry gurgling. Let's check it out. Wait, the watch. How much time do you have left? Jen checked the Omnitrix symbol on her chest. No flashing yet. We should be good for a few more minutes. They explored the submerged vessel, finding strange technology unlike anything they'd seen before. In what appeared to be the ship's control room, Jen discovered a still-functional console with symbols similar to those on the Omnitrix. Look at this, she called to Gwen, who was examining what looked like a weapon rack. I think this ship might be connected to the Omnitrix somehow. As she touched the console, it suddenly activated, projecting a holographic image, a DNA helix spinning slowly, with 10 distinct markers highlighted. 10 markers, 10 aliens, Gwen realized, swimming closer. Before they could investigate further, a mechanical whirring echoed through the ship. A hidden door slid open, revealing a chamber they hadn't noticed. Inside, suspended in bubbling liquid, floated what appeared to be armor, medieval-looking but with obvious technological enhancements. What is that? Jen moved closer, her predatory instinct suddenly on high alert. The liquid drained rapidly and the chamber opened. The armor remained motionless only for a moment before its eyes lit up, a deep, menacing purple. Omnitrix detected, a mechanical voice announced. Initiating retrieval protocol. That doesn't sound good, Gwen whispered. The armored figure stepped forward, raising a gauntlet hand that transformed into a weapon. Surrender the Omnitrix, creature, or be destroyed. Yeah, how about neither? Jen positioned herself between the threat and Gwen. Who are you supposed to be? The Tin Man's angry cousin. I am a knight of the Forever Kingdom. The Omnitrix is not meant for lesser beings. The knight leveled its weapon at them. This is your final warning. The Omnitrix symbol began flashing red. Oh, perfect timing. Jen groaned. The knight fired. Jen pushed Gwen away and dodged, the energy blast hitting the console instead, which exploded in a shower of sparks. Water began rushing into the chamber as the ship's integrity failed. We need to get out of here. Gwen shouted over the roar of incoming water. In a flash of red light, Jen transformed back to human form, underwater, with limited air in her lungs. Panic set in immediately. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, and the armored knight was advancing through the water as if completely unaffected by it. Gwen grabbed Jen's arm, pulling her toward the exit as the knight fired again. The blast hit a support beam, causing part of the ceiling to collapse. Debris separated them from their attacker momentarily. Jen's lungs burned. They were too deep, and her human form couldn't hold her breath long enough to reach the surface. She frantically twisted the Omnitrix dial, but it remained red and unresponsive. Darkness crept into the edges of her vision. Just as consciousness began to slip away, the Omnitrix flashed green. With the last of her strength, Jen slammed down on the dial. Green light enveloped her again, but instead of becoming Ripjaws, she transformed into something tiny, a gray-skinned alien barely 6 inches tall with an oversized head and large eyes. Gray matter, she squeaked in a high-pitched voice. Not helpful. But she immediately realized this form could breathe underwater, not through gills but by absorbing oxygen through its amphibian-like skin. Her panic subsided as her enhanced intelligence kicked in. Fascinating adaptation, she noted, analyzing her surroundings with new clarity. Gwen. I can breathe, but we need to find an escape route. The knight's armor appears to be self-contained life support with pressure resistance. Remarkable technology, actually, the metallurgical composition suggests. Less admiring, more escaping. Gwen interrupted, her own air running out. Right. Gray matter. Jen scampered onto Gwen's shoulder. There's a maintenance conduit behind that panel. It should lead to an emergency escape pod system. Gwen swam to the panel gray matter indicated and pulled it off. Inside was indeed a small tunnel, just large enough for Gwen to squeeze through. Follow it upward. Based on the ship's architecture, it should. Jen's explanation was cut short as the knight blasted through the debris. The Omnitrix, it demanded, charging toward them. Go. Jen leaped from Gwen's shoulder into the tunnel. I'll distract him. Are you crazy? You're tiny. I'm also smarter than both of you combined right now. Trust me. Reluctantly, Gwen entered the tunnel. Jen scurried along the ship's damaged systems, her small size allowing her to navigate through components no human could access. She quickly found what she was looking for, the power coupling to the knight's stasis chamber. Theoretically, if I reverse the polarity here and cross-connect these circuits. She worked with incredible speed, her gray matter form instinctively understanding the alien technology. The knight reached the tunnel entrance, too large to follow. It began widening the opening with its energy weapon. Almost there. Jen connected the final wire. The ship's remaining power surged through the modified circuit, creating a powerful electromagnetic pulse that shot through the knight's armor. System malfunction, the mechanical voice stuttered as the armor seized up. Emergency shutdown initiated. Ha! Who's the lesser being now? Jen taunted, scurrying away as the knight froze in place. She followed Gwen through the tunnel, catching up just as they reached what was indeed an escape pod chamber. One functional pod remained, its hatch open and emergency lights blinking. Get in. Jen instructed. The controls are simple, just pull the red lever once we're sealed inside. Gwen, nearly out of air, didn't argue. She tumbled into the pod with Jen perched on her shoulder. The hatch sealed automatically, and the pod filled with breathable air. Thank God, Gwen gasped, coughing up seawater. Fascinating design, Jen observed, examining the pod's interior. This craft is centuries more advanced than Earth technology, yet that night had medieval design elements. The juxtaposition suggests. Jen, can you be a know-it-all later and get us to the surface now? Oh, right. Jen pulled the launch lever. The escape pod detached from the ship and shot upward, breaking the surface moments later. They bobbed in the water about 100 yards from shore. Through the pod's viewport, they could see Grandpa Max standing at the water's edge, scanning the horizon with a worried expression. We are so busted, Gwen groaned. The Omnitrix began beeping again. Perfect timing as usual, Jen sighed as she reverted to human form, now crammed in the tiny pod with Gwen. What happened to that night thing? Gwen asked. Temporarily disabled, but probably not for long. We need to tell Grandpa about this. They opened the pod's hatch and swam to shore, where Max was already waiting out to meet them. Where have you two been? He demanded. I've been searching for nearly an hour. Grandpa, we found an alien spaceship. Jen blurted out. And there was this robot night thing that attacked us and wanted the Omnitrix. Max's expression shifted from anger to concern. A knight, you say? What did it look like? Medieval armor, but high-tech, Gwen explained. It called itself a Knight of the Forever Kingdom or something. Forever Knights, Max muttered. This is worse than I thought. We need to leave town, now. But Grandpa, the ship had information about the Omnitrix. Jen protested. Don't you think we should, not open for discussion, Max cut her off. Pack up. We're leaving in 10 minutes. As they hurried back to the rust bucket, Jen whispered to Gwen, did you notice how he recognized the name? Grandpa definitely knows more than he's telling us. Way more, Gwen agreed. But why keep it secret? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. They drove through the night, Max unusually silent as they put miles between themselves and Port Lucaya. Jen tried several times to bring up the Forever Knights, but Max deflected her questions. We should focus on where we're headed, not what we're leaving behind, he said finally. And where exactly are we headed? Jen pressed. I have an old friend in Barclay Castle. We'll be safe there for a few days. Castle? Gwen perked up. Like an actual castle? Sort of. It's a replica built by a history enthusiast, my friend Edgar. He's knowledgeable about certain things. Alien things? Jen asked pointedly. Max's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Get some sleep, girls. We'll be there by morning. Jen tried to stay awake, determined to catch Max making a mysterious call or checking secret equipment, but exhaustion from the day's underwater adventure soon pulled her into sleep. She dreamed of knights in high-tech armor chasing her through endless underwater caves, the Omnitrix always just seconds from timing out. Behind the knights loomed a shadowy figure, the same presence she'd felt watching her since finding the Omnitrix. Vilgax, she'd learned his name was, from Grandpa Max's reluctant explanations after the bounty hunter attack. When she awoke, the rust bucket was parked before an impressive stone structure, a surprisingly authentic-looking medieval castle complete with towers and a moat. Whoa, she murmured, pressing her face against the window. Your friend lives here. Edgar has unusual tastes, Max replied, already outside talking to an elderly man in tweeds who didn't look anything like what Jen expected a castle owner to look like. They gathered their bags and approached. Max, you old devil. Edgar greeted with a British accent. It's been years. And these must be the grandchildren you mentioned. Thanks for putting us up on short notice, Max said, shaking Edgar's hand firmly. Nonsense. Any friend of the plumbers is welcome at Barclay Castle. Edgar winked at the girls. Especially when they're being pursued by our mutual medieval acquaintances. The Forever Knights, Jen said immediately. What do you know about them? Edgar's eyebrows shot up. Direct, isn't she? Just like her grandfather. He gestured toward the castle entrance. Come inside. It's not safe to discuss such matters in the open. The interior of the castle was a strange mix of medieval decor and modern convenience, stone walls fitted with recessed lighting, suits of armor standing next to flat-screen televisions. Edgar led them to a cozy study lined with ancient-looking books. The Forever Knights are one of Earth's oldest secret societies, Edgar explained once they were settled. They date back to the time of King Arthur, originally formed to protect humanity from alien threats. So they're the good guys? Jen asked, confused. Edgar laughed humorlessly. They were, perhaps, 1,000 years ago. Now they're xenophobic extremists who believe all alien life forms and technology should be eradicated from Earth, after they've stolen and reverse-engineered the technology for themselves, of course. That explains why they want the Omnitrix, Gwen realized. Indeed. Edgar turned to Max, you didn't tell me how deeply involved the girls already are. Max sighed. I was trying to protect them. By keeping them in the dark. Edgar shook his head. Knowledge is protection, old friend. They need to understand what they're facing. I've been saying that for weeks. Jen exclaimed. Very well. Max sat down heavily. Edgar and I were once part of an organization called the Plumbers, an interstellar police force dedicated to handling extraterrestrial threats to Earth. The Forever Knights were sometimes allies, sometimes adversaries, depending on the situation. Jen's jaw dropped. You were a space cop. That's simplifying it a bit, but essentially, yes. Max looked uncomfortable with the revelation. I retired years ago to live a normal life. When you found the Omnitrix, I hoped we could handle it quietly, without drawing attention from old enemies. Too late for that, Edgar commented, bringing up a holographic display from a hidden projector in his desk. The Knights have been unusually active lately. They've raided 3 suspected alien technology caches in the past month. The display showed security footage of armored knights stealing equipment from various locations. They appear to be building something, Edgar continued. Something big. Any idea what? Max asked. Not yet. But their leader has changed recently. A man called Enoch has taken control, he's more radical than his predecessors. More dangerous. Jen studied the holographic images. So these Forever Knights want the Omnitrix to, what, take it apart? Most likely, Edgar nodded. Though they might also try to use its DNA samples to create anti-alien weapons. Either way, they can't be allowed to get it. They won't, Jen said firmly. I've handled worse than some guys in tin cans. Don't underestimate them, Max warned. The Knights have centuries of experience and advanced technology. A subtle alarm sounded from Edgar's desk. He checked a monitor and frowned. Speaking of which, we have company. The security feed showed several black vans approaching the castle gates. They tracked us here, Max realized. We need to leave. Too late for that, Edgar replied, pressing a button that caused metal shutters to descend over the windows. Defensive measures activating. We should be safe for now. Safe is a relative term, Gwen pointed out as the distant sound of an explosion rattled the castle. They're forcing their way in. Edgar rushed to a bookshelf and pulled a specific volume, revealing a hidden panel of controls. Max, take the girls to the South Tower. There's an escape tunnel. What about you? Max asked. I'll delay them and follow. Go. Max led Jen and Gwen through a series of corridors and up a winding staircase. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of combat, energy weapons firing and Edgar's automated defenses responding. I should help him, Jen said, activating the Omnitrix. 4 arms could handle those knights easily. Edgar can take care of himself, Max insisted. Our priority is keeping the Omnitrix away from the knights. They reached the tower room, where Max moved a heavy tapestry to reveal a hidden door. Through here. The tunnel leads to a garage with emergency vehicles. Suddenly, the tower door burst open. 3 Forever Knights stormed in, weapons aimed. Surrender the Omnitrix, their leader commanded. How about no? Jen twisted the dial and transformed into 4 arms, a massive, 4-armed red-skinned alien with incredible strength. Let's dance, Tin Men. The knights fired their energy weapons, but 4 arms Jen leaped with surprising agility for her bulky form. She grabbed one knight with her lower arms and another with her upper arms, smashing them together. Jen, be careful. Max called. Don't damage the structural supports. Little busy here, Grandpa. Jen grunted as she threw one knight across the room. The 3rd knight circled behind her, aiming for the Omnitrix symbol on her shoulder. Gwen grabbed a decorative shield from the wall and threw it like a frisbee, knocking the knight's aim off. The energy blast hit the ceiling instead, bringing down chunks of stone. The tunnel. Max shouted as debris began blocking their escape route. Jen grabbed her grandfather and cousin, tucking them under her massive arms, and charged toward the tunnel entrance. They barely made it through before the ceiling collapsed completely, sealing the knights on the other side. That was too close, Gwen gasped as Jen set them down. Edgar. Max looked back worriedly. He'll find another way out, Jen assured him. Right now, we need to move. The tunnel was narrow, forcing Jen to crouch as they proceeded. After several minutes, it opened into a large underground garage containing various vehicles, including what appeared to be a heavily modified tank. Edgar always did love his toys, Max commented, heading for a more practical SUV. This will get us away undetected. It has stealth technology. As they prepared to leave, the Omnitrix timed out, returning Jen to human form. Do you think the knights will follow us? Count on it, Max replied grimly. They're persistent. They drove through a hidden exit that emerged from the side of a hill a mile from the castle. Looking back, they could see smoke rising from one of the towers. We can't just leave Edgar. Jen protested. We're not, Max assured her, activating a communicator built into the SUV's dashboard. Edgar, come in. What's your status? After a moment of static, Edgar's voice replied, bit singed around the edges, but I made it to the emergency bunker. The knights are retreating, they know you've escaped with their prize. Any idea where they're headed next? Based on their chatter, they're returning to their primary base, the Forever Castle in the Black Forest. That's where Enoch is building his mysterious project. Max exchanged a look with Jen and Gwen. Then that's where we're going. Max, that's suicide. Edgar protested. The Forever Castle is their stronghold, heavily guarded and booby-trapped. Which is why they won't expect us to go there, Max countered. If Enoch is building something that requires alien tech, we need to stop him before he completes it. Always the hero, Edgar sighed. I'll send you the coordinates and whatever intelligence I can gather. Be careful, old friend. The communication ended, and Max programmed the coordinates into the navigation system. It's about a day's drive from here. We'll need supplies and a plan. Gwen looked concerned. Are we really going to raid the Forever Knights castle? The 3 of us against an army? It wouldn't be the first time I've infiltrated their headquarters, Max said with a hint of his old confidence. Besides, we have a secret weapon they can't anticipate. Me. Jen grinned, tapping the Omnitrix. 10 aliens, 10 different ways to kick their medieval butts. Your enthusiasm is admirable, but we'll need strategy, not just strength, Max cautioned. The knights have been fighting aliens for centuries. They'll have countermeasures for most of your forms. So we'll be smarter than them, Jen insisted. Gray matter can hack their systems. XLR-8 can get past their guards before they even see me. We can do this, Grandpa. Max smiled slightly. You're starting to sound like a plumber. Must run in the family, Jen replied proudly. They stopped in a small town to gather supplies, food, first aid equipment, and some other items Max insisted they would need. While Max shopped, Jen and Gwen waited in the SUV. Isn't this crazy? Jen whispered excitedly. Grandpa was a space cop. All this time we thought he was just a retired plumber who liked fishing and weird food. It explains a lot, Gwen admitted. Like why he knows so much about, well, everything. And why he wasn't totally freaked out when you found the Omnitrix. I wonder what else he hasn't told us. Jen mused. As if on cue, the Omnitrix began glowing with an unusual blue light, something it had never done before. That's new, Gwen observed, leaning closer. Yeah. Jen examined the device cautiously. It's not like when it's recharging or timing out. The blue light projected a small hologram, a DNA helix similar to what they'd seen in the sunken ship, but with a new sequence highlighted. It's like it's scanning something, Jen realized. From across the parking lot, a figure watched from the shadows, a teenage boy with dark hair and intense eyes. Kevin Levin had been tracking the Tennyson family ever since their encounter with the Forever Knights. The energy readings from the Omnitrix called to him like a beacon, power unlike anything he'd sensed before. Soon, he whispered, feeling the energy-absorbing ability in his hands tingling with anticipation. Very soon. The hologram vanished as Max returned with supplies. Everything okay? He asked, noticing the girl's expressions. The Omnitrix was doing something weird, Jen explained. Projecting DNA or something. Max loaded the bags quickly. We should keep moving. The Knights could have informants anywhere. As they drove toward the Black Forest and the Forever Knights' stronghold, Jen couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched, not by Knights, but by something else. Something that wanted the Omnitrix as badly as Enoch did. The SUV's navigation system guided them along back roads and rural highways, avoiding major population centers. Night fell, but Max continued driving, determined to reach their destination by morning. You should both get some rest, he told the girls. Tomorrow will be challenging. Gwen was already dozing, but Jen remained wide awake, her mind racing with questions about the Knights, her grandfather's secret past, and the strange blue scanning light. Grandpa, she said quietly, there's more to this than you're telling us, isn't there? About the Omnitrix, I mean. Max was silent for a long moment. Yes, he finally admitted. The Omnitrix wasn't meant to land on Earth, and it certainly wasn't meant for a 10-year-old girl to find. It's the most powerful device in the galaxy, capable of much more than just transforming into 10 aliens. What do you mean? Its creator, Azimuth, designed it as a repository of DNA, a way to preserve species and promote understanding between different life forms. In the right hands, it could bring peace to warring planets. In the wrong hands, it could be a superweapon, Jen finished, looking down at the device with new understanding. Exactly. Which is why so many want it, Vilgax, the Forever Knights, and others you haven't encountered yet. Others? Jen's eyes widened. How many aliens are coming after this thing? It's not just aliens, Max replied grimly. Humans can be just as dangerous when seeking power. That's why I've been trying to keep a low profile, to give you time to learn how to use the Omnitrix responsibly before facing its more dangerous pursuers. Is that why you retired from the plumbers? To live a normal life? Max smiled sadly. Partly. The other reason is sitting next to you. Jen glanced at sleeping Gwen, then back to Max with confusion. Family, Max clarified. After years of fighting alien threats, I realized what really mattered. Your grandmother helped me see that. When she passed away, I promised I'd be there for you kids, not gallivanting across the galaxy. But now we're dragging you back into it, Jen said guiltily. You didn't drag me anywhere. The moment that Omnitrix attached to your wrist, I knew my retirement was over. He reached over and squeezed her shoulder. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm proud of how you've handled this, Jen. Jen beamed at the rare praise. Thanks, Grandpa. I won't let you down. I know you won't. Max returned his attention to the road. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow, we face the Knights on their home turf. Morning found them parked on a forested ridge overlooking an imposing structure, a genuine medieval castle nestled among ancient trees. Unlike Edgar's replica, this fortress showed its age in weathered stone and ivy-covered walls. But satellite dishes and modern security measures revealed it was far from a historical relic. The Forever Castle, Max explained, studying it through binoculars. Their European headquarters for the last 8 centuries. It looks really well guarded, Gwen observed, noting the patrolling knights and electronic security. The main entrance is impossible, Max agreed. But there's an old escape tunnel that was sealed up decades ago. If it hasn't been discovered and resecured, we might have a way in. And if it has been discovered? Jen asked. Max handed her the binoculars. Then we improvise. That's the plumber way. They approached the castle from the west, using the dense forest for cover. Max led them to a small stream that disappeared under a rocky outcropping. The tunnel entrance should be behind these rocks, he said, examining the moss-covered stones. Help me move them. Together, they shifted several large rocks, revealing a low, narrow opening. That's our way in. Gwen asked skeptically. It looks ancient. It is, Max confirmed, clicking on a flashlight. Built during the Crusades as an escape route for the castle's original owners. The knights discovered it when they took over the property. And you know about it because? Jen prompted. I may have used it once or twice during my plumber days, Max admitted with a slight smile. The knights and I have history. They crawled through the opening into a damp, cramped tunnel. Roots had broken through the ceiling in places, and the musty smell of centuries hung in the air. Stay close, Max warned. And Jen, keep the Omnitrix ready but don't transform unless absolutely necessary. Some of these passages are too small for your larger forms. They proceeded slowly, following the winding tunnel as it gradually sloped upward. After what felt like hours of crawling through increasingly tight spaces, they reached a brick wall. Dead end? Gwen asked, disappointed. Disguised entrance, Max corrected, examining the bricks. There should be a. He pressed a specific brick, and a section of the wall slid aside with a grinding noise. Still works after all these years. The hidden door revealed a dimly lit storage room filled with ancient weapons and armor. Looks like their museum, Max whispered. From here, we need to reach the central keep without being detected. That's where Enoch will be building his device. How do we know which way to go? Gwen asked. We follow the technology, Jen suggested. These old knights might love their medieval stuff, but whatever they're building will need power, modern power. Max nodded approvingly. Good thinking. They slipped from the storage room into a stone corridor lit by electric sconces designed to look like torches. Modern security cameras were disguised as decorative gargoyles at intersections. Cameras, Gwen whispered, pointing. I see them, Jen replied, activating the Omnitrix. Time for a little gray matter hacking. She transformed into the tiny, intelligent alien and immediately scampered up the wall to the nearest camera. Primitive design, she muttered, examining its wiring. I can loop their feed temporarily. While Jen worked, Max and Gwen kept watch. After a few moments, gray matter Jen returned to the floor. Done. They're seeing empty hallways for the next 15 minutes. Let's move. They hurried through the corridors, following the increasing signs of modern technology, power conduits running along the ceiling, electronic door locks, and the faint hum of heavy machinery. We're getting closer, Max whispered as the stone corridors gave way to a more laboratory-like environment. They reached a balcony overlooking an enormous chamber. Below, dozens of knights worked around a massive device, a towering structure of medieval design but clearly incorporating alien technology. At its center pulsed a familiar blue light. That's the same color the Omnitrix was glowing. Jen realized. It appears to be a DNA scanner of some kind, Gwen observed. But much bigger. They're building a DNA disruptor, Max said grimly. If completed, it could target specific alien DNA signatures and neutralize them. You mean kill them? Jen asked, horrified. Max nodded. And with samples from the Omnitrix, they could target any species in the galaxy. We have to destroy it, Jen declared. Agreed, but we need a distraction first. Max surveyed the chamber. There, the power generators. If we overload them, it should create enough chaos for us to sabotage the main device. I'm on it, Jen said, but before she could move, the Omnitrix timed out, returning her to human form in a flash of red light. Intruders, a knight shouted from below, pointing up at their balcony. Protect the disruptor. So much for the stealth approach, Gwen sighed as alarms blared throughout the castle. Knights converged on their position from all directions. Max pulled a small device from his pocket, a plumber tool he'd kept hidden, and fired it at the approaching guards. A pulse of energy disabled their weapons temporarily. Run, he ordered, leading the girls down a side passage. They raced through the castle corridors, pursued by shouts and the clanking of armored footsteps. The Omnitrix remained stubbornly red, still recharging. In here. Max yanked open a heavy wooden door, revealing what appeared to be a laboratory. They ducked inside, barricading the door behind them. Great hiding spot, Jen said sarcastically. No way out. We don't need a way out, Max replied, examining the lab equipment. This is where they're processing the alien DNA samples. If we can contaminate their work, it might buy us time. Gwen approached a glowing container on a central table. Inside floated what looked like ancient scrolls covered in strange symbols. These aren't scientific notes, she observed. They look like spells. As her fingers neared the container, the symbols began glowing in response. Suddenly, a tendril of pink energy snaked out from the scrolls and wrapped around Gwen's arm. Gwen. Jen rushed to her cousin's side. Instead of harming her, the energy seemed to be merging with Gwen. Her eyes glowed briefly with the same pink light. I can understand them, Gwen whispered in awe. The scrolls, they're from an alien civilization that used energy manipulation, not technology. Magic, essentially, Max added, looking concerned. Gwen, step back from those. They could be dangerous. But it was too late. The energy had already been absorbed into Gwen's body, and the scrolls had crumbled to dust. I feel different, Gwen said, looking at her hands as faint pink energy danced between her fingers. Like I can do things I couldn't before. A tremendous crash against the barricaded door interrupted their discovery. They're breaking through. Jen warned, checking the Omnitrix again. Still red. Stand back, Gwen said with newfound confidence. She raised her hands toward the door, concentrating. Pink energy formed a barrier just as the knights broke through. What in the? One knight staggered back in surprise as his weapon's energy blast rebounded off Gwen's shield. That's new, Jen commented, impressed. I don't know how long I can hold this, Gwen warned, her arms trembling with effort. The Omnitrix finally flashed green. Leave it to me. Jen activated it, cycling through options before selecting 4 arms. The transformation was instantaneous, her human form replaced by the massive 4-armed alien. Knock knock, she roared, charging through Gwen's energy barrier and bowling over the knights outside. Who's ready for a knuckle sandwich? I've got 4 fists and I'm not afraid to use 'em. While Jen engaged the knights, Max worked quickly in the lab, sabotaging their DNA processing equipment. Gwen, can you use that new ability to reach the main chamber? We need to disable the disruptor. Gwen nodded uncertainly. I'll try. Outside, for arms, Jen was making short work of the knights, tossing them aside like toys and crushing their weapons. Is that all you got? My grandma hits harder than you guys. Well, I never actually met my grandma, but if I did, I bet she'd hit harder than this. More knights arrived, these equipped with energy shields that repelled even 4 arms' strength. Okay, so you've got some toys, Jen acknowledged, backing up slightly. Let me show you mine. She grabbed a decorative suit of armor from an alcove and threw it like a bowling ball, scattering knights in all directions. Meanwhile, Gwen was discovering the extent of her new abilities. With concentration, she could create platforms of energy to walk on, bypassing the crowded corridors entirely. This way, she called to Max, generating a pink pathway through an air vent. Max followed, impressed by his granddaughter's quick adaptation. Just like your grandmother, he murmured proudly. They reached the main chamber where the disruptor loomed. Knights scrambled to protect it, aiming weapons at the intruders. Surrender, plumber, a commanding voice rang out. A knight in more ornate armor than the others stepped forward. I am Enoch, leader of the Forever Knights. You are trespassing on sacred ground. Sacred? You're building a weapon of mass destruction, Max accused. Enoch removed his helmet, revealing a middle-aged man with cold eyes and a fanatical expression. A cleansing tool. Earth has been contaminated by alien presence for too long. The disruptor will purge our world of all extraterrestrial DNA, starting with your granddaughter's borrowed forms. Not. If we destroy it first. Gwen thrust her hands forward, sending bolts of energy at the device. Energy shields activated around the disruptor, deflecting her attack. Enoch smiled cruelly. Your newfound powers are impressive, child, but inadequate. We've studied energy beings for centuries. Back in the corridors, Jen was being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. For every knight she knocked down, 2 more appeared. And the Omnitrix was beginning to time out again. Need to end this fast, she muttered, looking around for an advantage. Her gaze landed on a structural support column. That'll work. With all 4 arms, she hammered the column until it cracked. The ceiling began to sag ominously. Time to go, she shouted to any knight still conscious. This place is coming down. She charged toward the main chamber as the Omnitrix timed out, returning her to human form just as she reached Gwen and Max. The place is collapsing, she warned. We need to go now. Enoch looked furious. You've doomed your family, child. There's no escape. As if to punctuate his words, a large section of the ceiling crashed down, separating the Tennysons from the exit. Knights fled in all directions as more debris fell. The tunnel? Gwen suggested desperately. Too far, Max replied. We need a more direct exit. Jen twisted the Omnitrix dial frantically. Come on, recharge faster. A bolt of energy struck near her feet. Enoch, still determined to capture the Omnitrix despite the collapsing castle. That device belongs to the knights by right of conquest. Finders keepers, losers weepers. Jen taunted, dodging another blast. The disruptor began to destabilize, its blue core pulsing erratically as power fluctuations ripped through it. It's going to overload. Max warned, pulling both girls behind cover. Enoch realized the danger too late. The disruptor's core erupted in a blinding flash of blue energy that tore through the chamber. When the light faded, a large portion of the castle wall had been disintegrated, leaving an opening to the outside. Our exit. Jen pointed. They ran for the newly created hole as the castle continued to crumble around them. Behind them, Enoch shouted orders to his remaining knights, not to pursue, but to salvage what they could of the disruptor. This isn't over, Tennyson, his voice echoed after them. The Forever Knights have existed for a millennium, we cannot be stopped by children. They escaped into the forest just as the central keep collapsed entirely, sending a cloud of dust and debris skyward. From a safe distance, they watched the destruction of the ancient fortress. So much history, Max said regretfully. Not all of it bad. They'll rebuild, Gwen predicted, looking at her hands where the pink energy still occasionally flickered. And so will we. What was that energy you absorbed? Jen asked her cousin. Some kind of alien magic. Something like that, Max answered when Gwen shrugged. There are species in the galaxy that manipulate energy the way humans use technology. Looks like you might have a natural affinity for it, Gwen. Cool. So I've got the Omnitrix, and Gwen's got magic powers, Jen grinned. We're like a superhero family. Max smiled tiredly. Let's focus on getting back to the rust bucket before celebrating. We've got a long drive ahead of us. They hiked through the forest, eventually reaching a road where Max called Edgar for extraction. As they waited, Jen noticed the Omnitrix glowing blue again, the same scanning mode they'd seen before. Grandpa, it's doing that thing again, she said, holding up her wrist. Max examined it with concern. It's seeking specific DNA patterns. I've never seen it do this before. It started after we left that town, Gwen recalled. Right before we headed to the Forever Castle. A rustling in the underbrush caught their attention. All three turned as a figure emerged from the trees, the teenage boy who had been watching them earlier, Kevin Levin. So you're the one with the alien watch, he said, eyes fixed on the Omnitrix. Been trying to find you. Who are you? Jen demanded, instantly on guard. Name's Kevin. And that thing on your wrist is calling to me. He stepped closer, revealing his hands glowing with absorbed energy. Can you hear it? It wants me to have some of its power. The Omnitrix's blue light intensified as Kevin approached, the scanning beam focusing on him specifically. Stay back. Max warned, positioning himself between Kevin and the girls. Kevin smirked. Nothing personal, old man, but I need what she has. He released a burst of energy that knocked Max aside. Grandpa! Jen cried out. She activated the Omnitrix, transforming into Diamond Head. You just made a big mistake, buddy. Sweet, Kevin grinned, seemingly unintimidated. Let's see what you've got, Crystal Girl. He placed his hand on a nearby tree, absorbing its properties until his body took on wooden characteristics. Then he charged. Diamond Head Jen fired crystal shards, but Kevin nimbly dodged, displaying surprising agility. When he reached her, his wooden fist connected with her crystalline jaw, and splintered. Ow! Kevin pulled back his damaged hand. Okay, need something stronger. He touched a boulder, his body transforming to stone. This time when he struck, the impact was significant enough to crack Jen's diamond surface. That actually hurt. Jen said in surprise, returning fire with a barrage of crystal projectiles. Most shattered against Kevin's stone form, but the force drove him back. Gwen helped Max to his feet, then turned toward the battle. Let me try something. She concentrated, generating orbs of pink energy that she launched at Kevin. The energy struck his stone body, causing it to revert partially to flesh. What the? Kevin looked startled. What kind of power is that? The kind you can't absorb, Gwen replied confidently, though the effort of using her new abilities was clearly taxing. Kevin's expression shifted from confidence to uncertainty as he found himself facing opponents with powers he couldn't easily counter. Behind them, the sound of an approaching vehicle, Edgar with their extraction. This isn't over, Kevin growled, backing toward the trees. That watch belongs with someone who knows how to use it properly. And that's me, not you. Jen shouted after him. Kevin disappeared into the forest just as Edgar arrived in a Humvee. Max quickly ushered the girls inside. Who was that? Edgar asked, accelerating away from the scene. Trouble, Max replied simply. A power absorber, from the looks of it. He said the Omnitrix was calling to him, Jen added, reverting to human form. And it was doing that blue scanning thing when he showed up. Power absorbers are rare, Edgar mused. Some have genetic markers that allow them to interact with technology in unusual ways. The Omnitrix might have detected his abilities. Is he working with the Forever Knights? Gwen asked. I don't think so, Max shook his head. He seems like a loner. But that doesn't make him any less dangerous. As they drove away from the destroyed Forever Castle, Jen gazed out the window thoughtfully. So now we've got Vilgax in space, the Forever Knights rebuilding, and this Kevin guy who wants the Omnitrix. Plus whoever else might be coming after it. Welcome to my world, Max said with a weary smile. The life of a plumber is rarely boring. Our world now, Jen corrected him, a determined expression replacing her usual carefree demeanor. We're in this together, Grandpa. All of us. Gwen nodded in agreement, a small pink spark dancing between her fingers. Family sticks together. Max's expression softened with pride. Then I guess retirement will have to wait a little longer. In the rearview mirror, smoke still rose from the ruined castle, a testament to both the threat they'd faced and their growing ability to overcome it. The Knights would rebuild, Kevin would return, and Vilgax continued his approach from the stars. But for now, they had survived. And for the Tennyson family, gradually evolving from normal humans to something extraordinary, survival was just the beginning. As the Humvee carried them toward the rust bucket and whatever adventure awaited next, none of them noticed the small drone following at a discreet distance, one of Vilgax's probes, recording everything for its distant master. The game was changing, pieces moving on a board much larger than Earth itself. And at the center of it all, a 10-year-old girl with the most powerful device in the universe strapped to her wrist, still learning what it meant to be a hero. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.